let's talk about dyslexia and directional dyslexia. This is an interesting one because I am someone who really, really does not have a sense of direction. I have a really bad sense of direction, but I found someone who I think is actually perhaps suffers from it in an even worse way than I do, or an even bigger way than I do, and that's Sarah Stevens, who works in this building. Sarah, you're very welcome to the programme. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You found your way to the studio?
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't joke about this because it is a big thing in your life. Tell us about it.
Okay, well, it is really tricky. So when I obviously start working anywhere, it takes me time to get used to even 2 floors, about a week, sort of just, and, getting things like lost in toilets.
Right,
I even videoed the exit of the train station to get, like London Bridge is very big.
Yeah.
So too many exits will like distract me or confuse me. I mean, it can be to the point where anything more than a 5-minute walk, it can be quite stressful.
So when someone says to you, Sarah, right, I'm going to meet you at this place at this time, and you haven't been there before, how do you kind of deal with that?
Right, well, I go into a mass what I try to do is I can do, but what I do is if I'm on because I do like a lot of like private work, so if I'm doing like a job that it's a new place,
you're a makeup artist. Sarah's made me look this way today. We got chatting in the makeup room about this, and I thought we've got to get Sarah on to talk about this. So you go to a private job, you go to a freelance job, So
if I do that, I'm in a situation where I always make sure I get there, good like 30 minutes. I give myself like 30 minutes extra time, even if I know I have to walk like 5-10 minutes out of a tube. So even it's almost like I can get on a tube, I can get on a bus, but any type of walking after that point is a bit of a struggle.
Okay. So when someone says, if someone gives you directions, says, right, you get off the bus, you walk for 2 minutes, you turn left, you turn right, what goes on in your head when that happens?
It's literally like, I just literally am like, I can't listen to them. I'm like, you know what, I probably, I'm going to get it wrong. So I tend to just say, yeah, sure, and then just ignore that and then make my own way. I find that I do use Google Maps, but you can get lost on that. But at least I find that I've got something to get to from A to B, if that makes any sense. Just it gives me a guide, but you can still panic with that though.
I want to talk to Katrina in a second, who's the director of Positive Dyslexia, but how big a deal is this in your life? How difficult is it for you to find things?
I think it's the embarrassment at times. Like I was on a holiday with my brother and it was quite horrible really, because we were at this bus stop and we had to go back home, and it was obviously, it's a situation where you're literally like, I've got to get a plane back.
Yeah.
And my brother sort of went off, and I thought, I don't know the exact address of the hotel. I looked on the ticket. I remember looking on the ticket and thinking, oh my God, this is the wrong address. Where am I going? And I just went into this like panic, and I'm calling him, and he's like, come on, just come out and, just do this, do that. And I just went into that panic. And then you kind of got to a situation where I sort of got very sort of catastrophised it, got a bit overwhelmed, and then, you can feel like a bit of an idiot.
It seems that everybody else can do it, but you can't. I feel that way sometimes. I don't think I certainly recognise, going into a panic, not being able to follow directions, but I don't have it nearly as badly as you do. But it is that panic.
You can feel slightly embarrassed by the way you are.
And this isn't just, not being able to, the same men don't want to ask for directions and things like that. Let's talk to Katrina Cochrane, who's director of Positive Dyslexia. Katrina, thanks for joining us today. How big an issue is this for people? Clearly it's a very big issue for Sarah. It's a little bit of an issue for me as well, but I just wonder, in your time as director of Positive Dyslexia, how much this has come up.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me on. Next week is Dyslexia Awareness Week.
Oh, right.
And it's a nice
coincidence, yeah.
Yes, exactly. We really try and encourage people to have awareness of dyslexia. I would say direction is only part of the dyslexic profile. It's not the whole thing. What I come across with many adults is that they're compensated adults. So many other things, they've got tricks, traits, things that they can work around. And possibly it's just the direction that's the last thing there that's the difficulty. I know this myself. My problem is, for example, if I got lost and someone was giving me directions, as they're giving me directions, it's just going over my head.
Yeah.
I just can't remember what they're saying. So it's to do with my memory. It's to do with my auditory short-term memory rather than my difficulties with directions. But most dyslexic people have difficulties with left and right, for example.
Do you, Sarah?
Yeah, what I've noticed is, funnily enough, when I come out of a lift, like when I was working here, I came out of the lift and I was always turning on the opposite side. Instead of going right into the canteen, I'd go immediately on the opposite side, and I did it continuously, probably about a couple of months, and then finally it but that's the problem. I'm getting lost even in corridors. You know, if I go into a toilet, come out, I always go in the opposite direction. So that's
All this sounding familiar, Katrina?
Absolutely. And I mean, I do a lot of travelling for my job, and beforehand I forget hotel rooms. So I have to take a picture of the number of my hotel room.
So you do have coping strategies. I mean, Sarah was talking about taking a video and so on. There are ways around this, especially with modern technology.
Absolutely. Taking a picture of where your car is in the car park, that kind of thing. But, you know, if you look back to children perhaps going into secondary school, huge school, they don't know their way around, they get lost. Those sorts of things. It can be really, really terrifying having those difficulties, but it's part of a wider picture. I mean, one of the other things that can be difficult for dyslexic people is being put on the spot. So for me, you know, I knew what the topic was going to be, and so I could prepare myself. But for other people, being told, what do you think about that, can be quite terrifying, can't it?
Is that something for you, Sarah, we're being put on the spot?
Yeah.
Ukraine, what's your view? Joking.
Well, like if somebody asked me for directions.
Oh, yeah.
I've had that. I mean, I just said...
But I get away with that with my Northern Ireland accent, because even though I've lived in London for 15 years, I just say I'm not from round here. And it's technically true, but you never want to get directions from me. Sarah, what do you think?
I'm literally like, I don't know. Sorry, don't know, you know. That's just, I wouldn't even attempt to give someone directions,
So, Katrina, very briefly, what should people do then if they think they're suffering from this? What do you think they should do?
Well, it's not suffering, because lots of people have got ways around things. We use technology. Yeah. We've got, you know, people have got strengths in other areas. Most dyslexics are very good verbally, they're very articulate. Huge strengths. It's not a barrier to
we've got to leave it there, Katrina. Sorry to cut you off. We're just going to hit the news. Katrina Cochrane, thank you. Sarah Stevens too. We're back after the news.